Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, the other is to refuse to believe what is true. It is perfectly true, as philosophers say, that life must be understood backwards, but they forget the other proposition, that it must be lived forwards. Marry, and you will regret it. Don't marry. You will also regret it. Marry or don't marry, you will regret it either way. Laugh at the world's foolishness. You will regret it. Weep over it. You will regret that too. Laugh at the world's foolishness or weep over it. You'll regret both. Believe a woman. You will regret it. Believe her not. You will also regret it. Hang yourself. You will regret it. Do not hang yourself, and you will regret that too. Hang yourself or don't hang yourself, you'll regret it either way. Whether you hang yourself or do not hang yourself, you will regret both. This, gentlemen, is the essence of all philosophy. I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations. One can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it. You will regret both. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. The Bible is very easy to understand, but we Christians are a bunch of scheming swindlers. We pretend to be unable to understand it because we know very well that the minute we understand, we are obliged to act accordingly. In addition to my other numerous acquaintances, I have one more intimate confidant. My depression is the most faithful mistress I have known. No wonder, then, that I return the love. What is a poet? An unhappy man who hides deep anguish in his heart, but whose lips are so formed that when the sigh and cry pass through them, it sounds like lovely music. And people flock around the poet and say, "Sing again soon." That is, may new sufferings torment your soul, but your lips be fashioned as before. For the cry would only frighten us, but the music, that is blissful. A fire broke out backstage in a theater. The clown came out to warn the public. They thought it was a joke and applauded. He repeated it. The acclaim was even greater. I think that's just how the world will come to an end, to general applause from wits who believe it's a joke. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of the potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. And what wine is so sparkling, what so fragrant, what so intoxicating as possibility? To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose one's self, and to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of one's self. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say, yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. Above all, do not lose your desire to walk every day. I walk myself into a state of well-being and walk away from every illness. I have walked myself into my best thoughts, and I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it. But by sitting still, and the more one sits still, the closer one comes to feeling ill. Thus, if one just keeps on walking, everything will be all right. To cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception. It is an eternal loss for which there is no reparation, either in time or in eternity. The proud person always wants to do the right thing, the great thing, but because he wants to do it in his own strength, he is fighting not with man, but with God. How did I get into the world? Why was I not asked about it, and why was I not informed of the rules and regulations, but just thrust into the ranks as if I had been bought by a peddling Shanghaier of human beings? How did I get involved in this big enterprise called actuality? Why should I be involved? Isn't it a matter of choice, and if I am compelled to be involved? Where is the manager? I have something to say about this. Is there no manager? To whom shall I make my complaint? Truth always rests with the minority, and the minority is always stronger than the majority, because the minority is generally formed by those who really have an opinion, while the strength of a majority is illusory, formed by the gangs who have no opinion, and who, therefore, in the next instant when it is evident that the minority is the stronger, assume its opinion, while truth again reverts to a new minority. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. It is perhaps the misfortune of my life that I am interested in far too much, but not decisively in any one thing. All my interests are not subordinated in one, but stand on an equal footing. Don't you know that a midnight hour comes, when everyone has to take off his mask? Do you think life always lets itself be trifled with? Do you think you can sneak off a little before midnight to escape this? One must not think slightingly of the paradoxical, for the paradox is the source of the thinker's passion, and the thinker without a paradox is like a lover without feeling, a paltry mediocrity. There is nothing with which every man is so afraid as getting two. know how enormously much he is capable of doing and becoming. How absurd men are, they never use the liberties they have. They demand those they do not have. They have freedom of thought. They demand freedom of speech. Listen to the cry of a woman in labor at the hour of giving birth. Look at the dying man's struggle at his last extremity, and then tell me whether something that begins and ends thus could be intended for enjoyment. The thing is to understand myself. The thing is to find a truth, which is true for me, to find the idea for which I can live and die. That is what I now recognize as the most important thing. And this is one of the most crucial definitions for the whole of Christianity, that the opposite of sin is not virtue, but faith. The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self, or it is that in the relation that the relation relates itself to its own self. The self is not the relation, but that the relation relates itself to its own self. Idleness, we are accustomed to say, is the root of all evil. To prevent this evil, work is recommended. Idleness as such is by no means a root of evil. On the contrary, it is truly a divine life if one is not bored. The present state of the world and the whole of life is diseased. If I were a doctor and were asked for my advice, I should reply, create silence. Your own tactic is to train yourself in the art of becoming enigmatic to everybody, my young friend. Suppose there was no one who troubled himself to guess your riddle. What joy, then, would you have in it?